All right, let's play out a scenario. Imagine you're floating in the absolute quiet of space and your tether snaps. It is just you and your suit against, well, everything. So how long can that suit really keep you alive? Today we're going to break down exactly what it takes to survive in literally the most hostile environment we know.
So, to really get how amazing a spacesuit is, you first have to understand what it's up against. The stakes are, no exaggeration, as high as they get. So, what actually happens to a person exposed to the raw vacuum of space? It's not exactly like the movies, but it is just as deadly.
Okay, so without any protection, the clock is ticking and it's brutally fast. The biggest problem is the lack of oxygen. You've got about 15 seconds of consciousness, using up the last bit of oxygen in your blood. After that, you're out. You might survive for another minute or so, but after about 90 seconds, it's over. And that idea that you'd freeze instantly? Nope, that's a myth. Heat doesn't leave the body that fast, so it would actually take maybe 12 to 20 hours to freeze solid.
Now here's where it gets really weird. There's a phenomenon called ebullition. In the near vacuum of space, the boiling point for liquids drops way down. So the water on your tongue, in your eyes, it would start to vaporize, and the nitrogen dissolved in your blood would form gas bubbles, causing your whole body to swell up to maybe twice its normal size. It's a pretty gruesome thought.
And it's not just the vacuum. Space is just a whole gauntlet of lethal threats. If you're in direct sunlight, you're getting cooked at 120 degrees Celsius. The moment you drift into a shadow, you're flash frozen down to minus 150. All the while, you're being hit with unfiltered radiation that tears through your DNA, and you're in a literal shooting gallery of tiny micrometeoroids traveling faster than a bullet.
So, how on earth do we survive all that? Well, we build a suit of armor that's so much more than just clothes. We build a vehicle, a personal, wearable bubble of life support called the Extravehicular Mobility Unit, or EMU for short. This is the only thing standing between an astronaut and instant death. And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? The best way to think about a modern spacesuit is not as clothing, but as the world's smallest, most advanced spacecraft, just built for one person. It brings a little piece of Earth with you: pressure, air, a stable temperature, all in a package you can wear.
So let's peel back the layers and see how this thing is built, because the real genius here is in the layers. Every single layer is designed to fight back against one of those specific deadly threats we just talked about. It's really a masterclass in defensive design. You can pretty much draw a straight line from the problem to the solution. That deadly vacuum, the suit has a pressurized bladder that pushes back. Those wild temperature swings, handled by insulation and a water-cooling undergarment. Tiny space bullets, the micrometeoroids, they get stopped by layers that include Kevlar. And the radiation, that's deflected by super reflective outer layers and even a thin layer of gold on the helmet visor.
Okay, so let's build it from the astronaut out. Right against the skin, you've got the liquid cooling garment. It's basically high-tech long johns with over 300 feet of tiny tubes circulating cool water to keep you from overheating. On top of that goes the pressure garment, an inner bladder that holds in the air with a tough layer on top so it doesn't just blow up like a balloon. And then the whole thing is wrapped in the thermal micrometeoroid garment, which is that tough insulated outer shield. But of course, none of that armor is any good if you can't breathe. Everything you need to stay alive: the oxygen tanks, the batteries for power, the filters that scrub the CO2 you exhale, the pumps for that cooling suit. It's all packed into that iconic backpack. That's the primary life support system. It's the engine room for your one-person spaceship.
So with all this incredible protection, the suit seems kinda invincible, right? It can handle the vacuum, the temperatures, even getting hit by tiny projectiles. But here's the catch. The mission is always limited by the supplies you carry with you. The clock is always ticking.
And this is a really important point. Survival in a spacesuit isn't usually a question of the suit failing. I mean, it's a risk, but these things are built to last for many missions. The real limit is the consumables. The oxygen, the water for cooling, the battery power, they are all finite. They will run out.
Which finally brings us to the big answer. The main oxygen supply in that backpack is designed to last for about 6.5 to 8 hours. That's the standard length of a spacewalk, or EVA. So that's your window of time to get your work done, whether you're fixing something on the space station or walking on the moon.
But what if something goes wrong? Well, there's a plan for that. There's a backup system. It gives you an extra 30 minutes of pure oxygen. Now, that's not a lot of time, but it's just enough to drop what you're doing and get back to the safety of the airlock. It's a 30-minute lifeline. So when you put all of it together, the layers of protection, the complex life support, the ticking clock of the resources, the spacesuit is just one of the most incredible feats of engineering imaginable. It's really a monument to human ingenuity in the face of a completely impossible environment. It is a meticulously engineered bubble of life. And yeah, it's an expensive bubble, costing somewhere around $12 million a pop. But what it does is priceless. It lets a fragile human being do complex work in a place where they otherwise wouldn't last 90 seconds. It literally turns the void from a death sentence into a workplace.
And that leaves us with one last big question. Today's suits are amazing, but they're built for relatively short spacewalks near spacecraft. As we start aiming for the moon again, and then for Mars, we're going to need to work on hostile surfaces for days or weeks at a time. So what's next? What kind of breakthroughs do we need? What will the spacecraft 4-1 look like on Mars